Hello, everybody. Tommy here, World at War Comics, and I am really excited about these two next guests. We've been diving into the Spawn universe, and there is a new title coming out June 18th. So make sure you get into your comic shops and make sure they are ordering Blood Letter. Now, the two guests that I have, I believe, are legends within the industry. We have Mr. Tim Seeley, who just announced Revival getting its own TV series. Obviously, Hack and Slash. We have a Local Man, and then my second guest is Mr. Joseph Illidge, who is a legend in and of itself. Milestone Comics. He has currently right now the Shadow Cabinet, which has been absolutely fabulous. He's worked with Batman as an editor. Both of these gentlemen just have such a huge history within comic books, and I'm so excited to be able to talk to them both now about their latest title, Blood Letter, in the Spawn universe. Remember, June 18th in stores. Make sure you get in there and grab your copies. But I had a blast talking about Blood Letter. All right, without further ado, here is Joe and Tim. Thanks, everybody. Hello, everyone. Welcome to World at War Comics. My next special guest, legendary creator and writer, Mr. Joseph Illidge. Joe, thank you so much for joining me today. I cannot wait to talk about, obviously, your amazing career, but most importantly, the latest title in the expanded world of Spawn Bloodletter. I cannot wait to jump in. It sounds absolutely amazing. But before we jump into that, sir, how are you doing?
Pretty good, Thomas. Thanks for having me. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I've been really
Good.
looking forward to this for a while. Obviously, we were talking before we hit recording. I did get an opportunity to meet you in person at San Diego Comic-Con on your Spotlight panel, which was amazing with Mr. Denys Cowen, which was a blast. I got to meet both of you, legends in the industry. Yeah, that was my favorite pictures of that entire trip.
Thank you very much. I'm pleased to be here because it's wild because we're talking about the fact that you're a Spawn fan, and it was at that Spotlight panel at San Diego Comic-Con last year where I announced that I was working on a Spawn project. We still didn't talk about what the details were, but that was the first time I announced it. So for you to be there and for us to be talking now, almost 1 year later, is great.
Yeah, it is great. I'm really excited to have this opportunity with you. So, I mean, Joe, I mean, we obviously want to talk Bloodletter, but I would love to go back a little bit and just talk about your first experience in the Spawn universe. When did you kind of jump in? Obviously, in the 90s, it exploded, and with you being in the industry as long as you were obviously watching everything that Image was doing at that time. Did you jump in right in the 90s yourself?
100%. Like I was there. I remember the birth of Image Comics. I remember because I was the guy that I was buying Todd McFarlane Spider-Man, right? So when the founders left the big two publishers and then Image was announced, I was like, okay, first of all, this is insane because again, Image really laid the groundwork. You didn't see creators doing that, especially as a group like that. I don't think it had ever been done. And so I was interested in all of the books that the creators were putting out. And Spawn was just really unique because I feel like it was the only horror title of the founding Image titles. You had Young Blood, you had Wildcats, you had Savage Dragon, but I felt like Spawn was the horror title. It was the rated R title, and they were unafraid to go into dangerous places and territories. So I remember buying Spawn 1 and then just continuing from there. And then when special writers came on board, like Alan Moore and Grant Morrison. That was amazing. So for me to be a part of the Spawn legacy, come on, my love goes back to the very beginning.
I love that. Now, with you, obviously having such an amazing career, Milestone being such a huge part of the comic book industry, can you see any similarities? I know Milestone and the path that it took was much different, but are there any similarities being involved with both Milestone and Image Comics that you could bring together?
Well, the similarities are creators coming from the big two publishers and then making their own company, right? Dwayne McDuffy and Denys Cowen, who are two of the co-founders of Milestone, they did a lot of work at Marvel Comics on Deathlock, Power Man and Iron Fist, and then at DC, Dennis working on Batman. He worked on a Batman storyline called Blind Justice with Sam Hamm, who wrote the Tim Burton Batman film. And then Dennis was also well known for his work on The Question, right? And then Dwayne and Dennis together did the Prince comic book. I don't know if you remember this. There were two comic books, but the very first one had this iconic Brian Bolland cover.
Wow.
So those two coming together with Derek Dingle, Michael Davis, and then Christopher Priest, right? To make Milestone and create a whole universe that, in a way, had its similarities to the Image founders, except with the Image founders, they didn't create one universe, they all created separate universes,
Yeah.
right? So I did start my career at an entrepreneurial company, and to now work for Todd McFarlane Productions and Image Comics, those are two of the ultimate entrepreneurial companies in comics. So there is that connection. And then going from Milestone to Batman and being an editor of Batman, working with the great Denny O'Neil, and then working on Batman No Man's Land, working on the Y2K relaunch with Detective Comics and Batman and Gotham Knights, in which we were able to explore like different genres. Gotham Knights was a psychological thriller. Batman Detective Comics, which was written by Greg Rucka, was crime noir. So that kind of helped set me up for the Spawn universe because listen, Spawn definitely has some inspiration from Batman. And as we know, Todd McFarlane drew Batman. He drew Batman Year Two, and he ended up doing a cover which was very iconic. As a matter of fact, I'm going to step off screen because
Okay.
I'm going to go get something that's going to
That's
speak
awesome.
to this. All right.
Love it.
So this is it, right? This
Look at
is
it.
the iconic Batman cover that Todd did with the cape flapping and the bats. And if you basically look at it, right, it's kind of like, well, this is the prototype for Spawn
Yeah.
and how Spawn's cape would be flowing all over the place, right? So, like I said, I'm a real deal fan.
Oh
So
yeah.
so finally getting to write in the Spawn universe and actually write Spawn because he appears throughout the series in different ways and there's a big battle coming, but we'll talk about that. That's really a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, again, you've had such a legendary career. You've touched so many amazing properties, and several different publishers. It's almost full circle, like you said, to come back to kind of this entrepreneurial, business with the Image, because here, I mean, this is like, where did the story, for Bloodletter begin? Did you come to Todd with an idea, or like, how did that all come about?
It was really interesting. So Tim Seeley, my co-writer and friend, and I, we worked at Heavy Metal Magazine together on the editorial side. And while we were working there, we realized, hey, we really think alike in terms of story and character and kind of pushing the envelope. And we said we should work on something together. And then I actually first met Thomas Healy, who's the editor in chief of Todd McFarlane Productions, and we got to talking, the three of us, and he basically laid out the road for what the expanded Spawn universe looks like and invited us to find a story from a perspective we haven't seen that hasn't been told yet, but really plugs into the continuity in a way that people who love Spawn and love the Spawn universe would dig it. And so Tim and I put our heads together and we came up with Bloodletter. And what was really important for us is that not only does it take place in the Spawn universe, but how is it directly connected to a lot of the characters that people love, like Overkill and She Spawn and characters like that. And so what we figured was number one, that the main character, Tasha Thornwall, she's an underground mystical mercenary that is known in mystical and like street circles as the Bloodletter. It was important that her origin somehow connects to Spawn's, one, and two is that Tasha would be the gateway to see the Spawn universe from an entirely different angle. So that if you're a new reader, it's new to you. But if you're a Spawn fan, now you're seeing something, but you're seeing it from 90 degrees different or 180 degrees different. So part of what's happening in Bloodletter is we're starting to unveil a secret history of the Spawn universe that has always been there, but the readers just never saw it from their point of view.
Incredible. Well, let's talk a little bit about Tasha Thornwall because some of the art, which I'll pop here up in a moment, I mean, the art is absolutely fabulous. It definitely has like that darker tone as it should be in part of this Spawn universe. But she looks pretty badass, man. I would love to kind of understand how the development of who she is within Bloodletter started. I mean, were you and Tim just sitting down, kind of going over like the mystical side of her, kind of that because she's an agent as well, right? So kind of that noir around what she did leading up to this. Can you kind of talk about how that development took place?
Right. So she is a former CIA agent who became a mercenary and who had to learn magic to survive in the underground, right? No, I'm not going to spoil it here, but there's a very specific reason why she's ex-CIA. There's a very specific reason why you have not heard of Tasha Thornwall. She's been in hiding and for pretty good reason. And during that time, she had to learn magic because in Spawn's world, there are supernatural threats all over the place. You can't survive in the underground of this world if you do not learn mysticism. Like, you're done, right? And so, Tim and I were really thinking about, okay, well, what are some of the kind of like characters that we like that we want to bring that vibe to this? And Tim is known for writing Grayson, which was this really great DC series in which, Dick Grayson, Nightwing, goes incognito. He's working as a secret agent for this organization called Spiral. So he wanted to bring in some Grayson. And then Tim and I are both fans of John Constantine, right? And like the original run of Hellblazer, I think it went 150 issues at Vertigo. And Tim has written post Vertigo Hellblazer, when he kind of came to DC Comics. So it's like, okay, bring in some spy stuff like Grayson, bring in some mysticism like Hellblazer, but who is this character? So first it's building her, right? Figuring out what her story is, and then it's building the cast around her. And her cast is very small, but the Spawn universe is the larger cast, right? So, it always starts with the one character and what their journey is. And then once you do that, then you can world build. But it's important to character build first, not world build first, because you have to know this person's journey and what is this about, right? And so, this series is a vendetta series, right? Like, she has a vendetta against Spawn. She wants to see him done in. So really think about it like some of your classic westerns like The Outlaw Josie Wales or Unforgiven, right? Or, if you're talking John Wick or if you're talking Death Wish, right? It's like those vendetta stories that we really love. That's what we wanted to make this.
I love it. Will this all take place kind of in that New York area? Will it take place in the alleys of Rat City? All of that's still going to be very familiar for someone who has been reading Spawn for a long time.
We're going to be world traveling with
Oh,
this. We're going to be going throughout the globe with Bloodletter. The very first scene in Bloodletter 1 does take place in New York, in Rat City. And that scene takes place in the future, I would say. It's the future. It's kind of like maybe 5 minutes from now,
nice.
right? And then we're gonna flash back and lead you back to that moment at this point in the Bloodletter series. And I mean back to that moment where you're going to see that exact scene, but instead of seeing it from Tasha's perspective, you're gonna see it from Spawn's perspective.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, so we're gonna converge for everyone.
I love it. Well, Tim's joining in right now. Is that okay, Joe?
Oh yeah, I mean, come on, the more the merrier.
The
Did you
more the
bring
merrier.
cake?
I
If
love it.
there's no cake, I don't know if it's a party yet.
Tim always brings the party.
All right, there we go.
There you
There he
go.
is, the man with the plan.
All right, everybody. Tim Seeley just jumped in. Amazing writer, creator, artist. Done a lot. I've had Tim on several times talking Local Man, which I absolutely loved. Wish there was more of that, but Hack Slash Revival, big news over there on that as well. But Tim, welcome. Me and Joseph have been talking Bloodletter and kind of that background, so we're glad to have you so you could jump right in. And just real quick, Joe was talking about Bloodletter starting in New York, starting in Rat City, but Tasha is going to be traveling around. So maybe we could start from there if that's okay. I would love your perspective too, Tim, as far as obviously you've worked with Image before, you've done some of your titles with Image, but as far as the Spawn world, I know you and Joe were talking a little bit about with Thomas Healy about what type of a character that can be developed that would be relatable to the Spawn world, but would help expand it, like all these other titles go. Can you kind of talk about that process between you and Joseph?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think a big part of our approach to this was just that, the Spawn world and the ideas in it are huge, and obviously the book is about Spawn. But like even in the first 25 issues, there's all these things mentioned, and then everybody moves on. And going back through it, we were like, this is full of stuff that kind of suggests this really interesting world that's like a merging of espionage stories and supernatural stories. And so the original idea that we had for a character like Bloodletter, kind of nascent ideas that we first came up with, all of a sudden it made sense that that is the perfect world for this character to live in. And so we were kind of talking about doing something, when Joe and I were first talking about let's do something, it was like, well, I would love to do something like kind of like Grayson, because I love doing like a spy world, but there's some other bigger comic book genre world there. And we had talked about doing something supernatural, and then it was like all these things together, Spawn, that's the perfect place to put it. So we kind of back developed it into something that fit really well into Al Simmons and Jason Wingard, all the sort of ways that you can kind of dance between the raindrops of what's been established, with a character whose life has been ruined by Spawn, essentially.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
when you
yeah.
talk about Spawn, and Joe, you kind of mentioned this too, right? Tasha has this terrible experience. I believe it takes place, correct me if I'm wrong, before Al Simmons actually becomes Spawn or after he becomes Spawn. I think it was before, right?
It's before, and going back to the world traveling thing, because I mean, to me, that's just part of the fun, right? I think that's also part of the fun of dealing with the Spawn universes, even though, Spawn, like early core stuff took place in Rat City, like as an agent, like Al Simmons was everywhere, right? And so, it was like, okay, let's make it global. And then we were trying to think about, okay, cool locales. Where does this make sense? What are the circumstances that would lead to a conflict? So we figured something out. Not going to tell you where it is. It's definitely it's not in New York. It's not in the United States, right? But it's just something that goes sideways, right? And there's this great line, like, because co-writing, different people do different things. Like we'll co-write dialogue, or Tim will write this big scene and decide where it is. And but there's this line that Tim wrote. I'm just gonna say the line, and then you'll have to figure it out.
All
And when I read it, I was like, oh, that's real. And it's a line where Tasha calls somebody and says, this is CIA on CIA violence,
right. Oh,
right? And you're like, wow, that's exactly what this is, right? This is an interdepartmental conflict. And that is known. That is part of the vocabulary, right? Like the dirty trick stuff, right? Where there are no rules. There's the rules now, but they can be broken depending upon circumstances. And the circumstances are bad, right? So when you read it, you'll know what that line means. But that line is at the core of everything, right? And we were talking like, Spawn and Grace, like just to let you know, like this is legit, right? Like so, like Tim and I aren't just like friends and co-writers, but I'm a fan, right? So
Yeah.
like, so wait, I've been doing this like during
Yeah.
you just pulling stuff off the shelves. So
I
wait a
love it.
minute. So wait a minute. Like, like you know what I'm saying? Like the omnibus. Like I got the Grayson omnibus, right? So I get to just like get my feels from like different places working with him. So, but yeah, so like he said, like this is definitely that we get to mix the espionage and the supernatural the same way that it was for Al Simmons, right? Where his world was an espionage world that devolved and then evolved into a supernatural world, right?
Amazing.
One
Um,
thing we
oh,
want
please.
to play up too was the idea that, and it's so obvious when you go back and read Spawn, but so much of what Todd was playing with there was that, people blame heaven and hell for our good sides and bad sides, but Spawn is kind of about, well, no, it's really us, and they are just as sort of dirty and backstabbing. Heaven and hell does all this stuff, but they're not as good at it. Like humans are much better at this sort of betrayal and that was such a clear and obvious subplot when you go back and or theme when you go back and look at it. So we wanted to do that too. Like Tasha has to live in this world of demons and angels and vampires and everything, but the real danger is the people. Those are the real dark souls that she encounters.
Yeah, it seems like within the Spawn world, right? If you're an angel or if you're from heaven, you really understand heaven, but you really don't understand hell as good as a human could understand both sides. And I think that is kind of the driving factor that allows them to be so good at it because because they're not involved in each of those sides, heaven and or hell, they could really see those sides, I think, from a different perspective than if you were actually from heaven or from hell. I don't know if that makes sense, but I feel like as a human, they could play a lot more games between those two, just because they're not heavily involved in those two worlds, especially a spawn like Al Simmons.
Well, they kind of play it as not only that, but it's that uh, angels and devils don't really care. They're
Yeah,
just this is the side they're on. This is what they were born into. They just have to do their job. Like this is, I'm an angel. I do this. I hunt spawn. I, kill demons. And humans are like, I can play both things and get something for myself because the demons and angels can't really get anything. They're just in a
yeah.
war. They've been in a war, and that's this is the backdrop for these characters who, you know, like Jason or Al, like they excel because they're kind of actually playing both sides.
Yeah, and there's some very specific things about Tasha that gives her an angle on this. So give you a few hints now. Tasha's father is a preacher, and Tasha does not believe in Mr. Upstairs and Mr. Downstairs.
Okay.
Right? So now think about that, right? Like you take a person like that and you throw them into a world which is caught between a war between upstairs and downstairs, right? All the time, right? So that creates some tension for her. And her journey in becoming a mystic means that she came across a number of things that put her in conflict with the things she doesn't want to believe in, right? So she is constantly making her way through this world and figuring it out, right? But she has amassed a lot of knowledge and like bad knowledge.
She's seen things, right? She's seen things.
100%. She's and been through things because I think another thing is you don't gain like mystical knowledge without suffering, right? This isn't like Strange Tales, I forget what issue, was it 125 that first introduced Doctor Strange or something? And you just get to go to Tibet and learn. It's like, no, like for you to learn like magic, you're gonna have to go through suffering, right?
Now, from a character development standpoint, as you two are working together on Tasha, is it more fun to get into that mythical, magical side of it, or is it more fun to develop the suffering that she had to go through in order to be put into a position where she can execute at a high level within this whole Spawn universe?
That's
The,
good.
the, the supernatural shit is more fun.
Yeah.
Like we have in the first issue, like there's a hulk of an abandoned shipping container, and there's a demon inside. It just goes port to port. You trade souls to it. Like, yeah, that's fun as shit, obviously. But the things I think that pay off are the human stuff. That you know, it's really hard to make anyone care the long term about cosmic conflicts. It always comes down to people shit. I mean, and we know that, and so we really focus on that. The backdrop is, big crazy stuff and people going on tourism trips by hell diving down the Tower of Hell and stuff. Like we play that stuff, but it's really about people for sure. It's about Tasha specifically.
Yeah, 100%. Like it's wild. Like Bloodletter 1 is going to drop soon. Bloodletter 5 is almost done.
Cool.
Right. We've kind of done this arc with her, and to Tim's point, right? Like it all comes down to the real personal stuff, how relationships are going to change, um what happens with Tasha because of this issue that really sets her off on the vendetta against Spawn, and what she's willing to do to take him out on the road to that vendetta, right? So then this series, you've got the big battles, you've got the Spawn universe, but at the core of it, right, it's like, how far will you go to get revenge, right? And you don't know until you're in it.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm wondering, and maybe don't answer this if it gives too much away, but I'm wondering how much Al knows about Tasha's desire for vengeance.
Mm.
All right, we'll skip that one. Okay, we'll skip that one.
No, 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 no,
Oh,
no.
okay, okay. I'm
Tim,
just wondering if
what do you
he
think?
knows that he's being hunted almost by Tasha this whole time.
I mean, it says something about Al and his history that also he kind of forgot she exists.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Before he became Spawn, like, you have to believe there are so many of these people. I mean, his job to some degree, the reason he's able to get iced by Jessica is that to some degree his job before this was icing agents.
Yeah.
Right? And he thought he was safe. So, like you get in his way, and that's his job is to, you you get a conscience, you decide this isn't for you. And that was Al's job. He was the Reaper.
Yeah.
For him to not, that's what gets him in the end. When Jessica gets him, he's like, oh shit, it came for me. I don't know why I'm surprised.
Right. It's wild, right? Because in that sense, he's John Wick, like decades before John Wick, right? He was the boogeyman, right?
Yeah.
And to what Tim is saying, it's like, he's destroyed so many people's lives, right? So of course, like one person's like, and what's your name? But it's funny. I think, when we were talking about it, I think part of the inspiration for Origin was like, so I was, like we were saying before, I was there, like we were all there for when Image Comics started, when Image Comics came into being. And I think to that point, we were all there for when Vertigo came into being. And I remember reading, I think it was issue 5 of The Invisibles, Grant Morrison, and at that time, Steve Yoel. And there was like the issue that was about like this officer that got shot by one of the Invisibles, right? He was just some side guy. I forget the guy, King Mob shot him in the leg and destroyed his leg, right? And issue 5 is like, what happened to that dude who got his leg shot off by King Mob? It's a story, right? And that's what Tasha is. Tasha's the collateral damage.
Yeah. That's
that we just put aside and say, oh, well, that's what Al Simmons does. But it's like, yeah, but what happened to that person? So that's what it is. It's the story of collateral damage come back.
I feel like you could go in so many different directions with this because, like you said, Al, I'm not even sure he understands, especially before Spawn, all the people's lives that he affected in a negative way because his mindset wasn't on, the innocent people or those that maybe shouldn't have been dealt with by him, but were because they were in the wrong place at the right time. If you look at the Curse of Shirley Johnson, we're starting to get a little feel for that. I'm not sure Spawn understands the rage that even she has for what happened to her. If you've read issue 1 yet of The Curse of Shirley Johnson. So
Yeah, we
I
haven't
feel
gotten
like
to
it could
read
go
it
in a
yet.
lot of there's a lot of characters I feel like you all could start to develop of people who have been wronged by Al and or Spawn, and he has no idea he's wronged them. He's just doing what he does, and all these people are affected by him.
what's that thing that I think Todd does so well is that there's a whole world of people, and this plays in the heaven and the hell agents, and then also the Americans. It's just all people saying, "Well, I'm just doing my job, man. I'm just doing my job," and just and what a crap sellout that is, like. But it's certainly like a theme I think of that early stuff because so much of like now as a kid when I was reading Spawn, I was just like, oh, it's so badass.
Yeah.
Back and read, you're like, oh my god, there's tons of shit in here. There's like so much. There's a lot of big thoughts, and now knowing Todd a little bit better is like, oh, this is all Todd. This is all his amazing system that he's developed in his brain that comes out into this in this
Oh
comic
my God.
for 30
When
years.
we had a 1 hour call with Todd and Thomas, but it was, like it was Todd's show. And he basically just laid out the whole mythology and the logic of the mythology. And we were just sitting there. And like, if you can imagine a big telepathic straw going from our brains into Todd's brain and just like sucking up all the knowledge, like that's what was happening. And it was after that call that Tim and I were like, okay, we know exactly what this is. Because there's a really big story for Tasha that has a very specific angle, and it's about how heaven and hell work in the Spawn universe, right? But yeah, it's like, it was funny what you said about that whole thing where everyone's like, that's just my job, that's just my job. That makes me think of one of my favorite movies, Man on Fire with Denzel Washington, right? Where he's on his revenge kick and everyone's saying to him, hey, I'm just a professional, I'm just a professional. And he's like, I'm tired of hearing that. I'm tired of hearing that as an excuse. It's like, you know what you're doing. Like you make the decision. So don't like use that excuse for me when I come for you with the gun to your head. Right? Like own it. I did that. I got caught. I'm gone. Don't be like I'm just a professional because so am I. Like I'm a professional, right?
Yeah, there you go.
There it is. Yeah, yeah.
With the expanded Spawn universe and obviously Tasha Thornwall and everything that's happening within Bloodletter, I'm wondering if there isn't going to be a point where some of these characters from expanded universes start to make appearances in one another's titles. Has there been any talk of that, or are you able to even share if something like that will happen? Not that Shirley Johnson would make an appearance in Bloodletter, but any of these expanded storylines or characters that are a little bit newer? Has there been any talk within, Image and Spawn universe for some of these to come together eventually?
Oh yes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, 100%. Like Thomas has definitely talked to us about crossover possibilities. And, I think part of what's going to be really cool is how we're bringing in legacy characters to Bloodletter, but you're going to just learn new things about them. So, like, I don't know if you've seen the covers, but listen, spoiler, non spoiler, like, you've seen She Spawn on a cover, right? So, at the very least, we're going to get to her, right? Tasha's on a mean hunt for Spawn. There's no way we're going to play with the fans. That fight is happening, right? So I think that, that's going to be part of the fun, like the twist on the legacy characters. And then yeah, like, listen, if the fans go all in on Bloodletter and they're like, listen, we want to see more, then yeah, then you start talking about, oh, where will Tasha pop up elsewhere, and where can we bring other characters in who are like some of the newer characters, right? You got um the Book of Nyx,
Yeah.
right? The Black Ritual series by Thomas Healy, REIC, and that's out right now. So, like you said, we've got Shirley Johnson. There's these revelations about who Violator is, and you've got The Scorched by our mutual friend John Layman. You got my bud Erica Schultz writing Rad City. It's like, so it's just like one big Spawn family, which is also cool. It's kind of like a bunch of us know each other. So I think, if we get to do that, then it'll be like fun jamming.
Yeah. I think out of all the characters you mentioned, man, Nyx would be amazing. I think that is such a natural kind of fit if that happens. I think that would be a lot of fun. And Thomas is doing a bang up job on that as well. Absolutely loving it. But yeah, the whole universe thing. I mean, as a Spawn fan, right, we've had some amazing titles over the years like Gunslinger, obviously Scorch, King Spawn. But then when it expanded like it did, like this explosion of babies of Spawn just all over this universe, I mean, I don't know, man. I didn't know if it could get any more popular. I mean, man, 30 plus years of Spawn and then having all these. Did you like when you looked at Spawn and then Joe, you and I were kind of talking a little bit earlier about in the 90s, seeing everything that was happening at Image, obviously Spawn being that one character that over the years has really been a mainstay with under Image, and seeing Full Circle from Milestone, which also has a very similar, not in a lot of ways, but a similar start, and being kind of that entrepreneur, and then coming full circle on Image, the ultimate entrepreneur title or publisher. I mean, Tim, you too. I mean, did you think of ever being able to jump in and being able to create a character with Joe and Spawn? Did you kind of have ideas, or was that a goal at all?
Oh yeah. I mean, since I was 13, yeah, of course, yeah.
I love his goals because I couldn't even imagine it. I couldn't even imagine that I would be operating in sports world. But it's wild. But I still remember like those early days where the books were new. You never knew what you were gonna get in any issue. And I think the thing that struck me about the Spawn universe the most is that bad people get away with really bad things. Like Billy Kincaid, the ice cream serial killer. Like he was really like the John Wayne Gacy of that world and getting away with it, man. So that's the thing. It's like in the Spawn universe, it's like the heroes aren't usually there and the villains outnumber them, right? So it's like, wow, that is really going in. And like Tim has an encyclopedic knowledge of Spawn. I think Tim has all the Spawns. I was going in and out. Like I feel like I have the first 20, and then I would go in and out when Jason Sean Alexander, who's a friend of mine, started doing it. And then like the there were no panel borders. It was just like all these like beautifully designed pages, and they were revisiting his origin. I was like, okay, I got to get into that. And then Ken Lashley did. So I was like, I got to get into that. So then when we got the gig, like I had to go to my local shop, and I was like, I want all six. Right? And I had to take the big heavy bag on the train with the six compendiums. But it's like, part of what's going to be cool is we're going to revisit some of those old like things, right? And kind of like unspool them or take some things from them. So the people who really notice stuff, they're gonna have these aha moments. Like, but for me, I couldn't have imagined writing in the Spawn universe. And it's wild because, like you said, I came from Milestone, then going to Batman, like which is just like bananas, um, and everything that entails, like. But you know, something else that really struck me about Spawn. It was when I read that Spawn got into the Guinness Book of World Records
Yeah.
for being the uninterrupted series of highest number at that point. And I thought about it and I was like, Spawn has been going since I bought number one at that comic shop. It never stopped. It didn't stop for a pandemic. It didn't stop.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that was the thing for me. And to your point about the expanding Spawn universe, like I said, me and a bunch of heads, we all follow each other on social media. I remember the day the Spawn universe was announced in all the websites, and all these artists I knew were like, hey, here's why I haven't been talking for a year. Hey, I can finally say what I've been doing. Like Steven Segovia and all these heads. And I was like, oh, and they were like, the Todd father, right? And I was like, oh, right, like, because for for them, this is where it all began. They don't know a time before this. Like for them, comics began with the birth of Image. Comics began for them with Spawn. And that's when I was like, oh, I understand now. So then, again, for us to be able to work together and jam on this. And like I told you, like that went back to our days at Heavy Metal, like Tim and I working together. And then we just realized we were simpatico on a lot of things. And we're like, hey, let's jam on something. Um, it was really a thing where it's like, well, listen, it's crazy, but let's see if this could happen. And it did, right? And part of what that just says is like, don't be fearless, right? If there's something you want to explore, take a shot. It'll either happen or it won't. But Thomas Healy really opened the door for us. And Todd then just like burned our brains with the whole explanation of how everything works. And so they've been great to work with. It's been a great universe to work in, and we are blessed, blessed, blessed by the art team of Christian Rosado and DC Alonso.
Oh, incredible. I mean, that's the one thing that like if you've never jumped into Spawn because maybe it wasn't your thing, you probably still bought Spawn mainly for the art. Right. And so you have kind of two fan bases. You have obviously the diehard fans. They understand Al Simmons. They understand the Spawn world. And then you have people that have just been collecting them because the covers are just, especially in the 90s. I mean, the art is what separated them from, I think, everybody else. I mean, that's how I was like, what the heck am I reading right here? Obviously, we experienced it with Spider-Man and some of the other titles, Fantastic Four with Jim Lee. Like we had these experiences where, man, the art is just so much more different. And then they come and create this company. And now there's this whole fan base that just collect covers because the covers are just so beautiful. So to be able to be an artist, I think, on any kind of a Spawn title is I think a huge goal for a lot of artists because they're known. Like Spawn World is known for having some of the best artists, and you have such an amazing team on Bloodletter. The art is absolutely incredible. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pull up some of the images because it is beautiful. We got several covers that have been released. So I just gotta spell Bloodletter right. Put blood leader. That's what happens when you type with two fingers.
I hear you.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll
By the
pull
way,
up some of the
we got to
images.
talk about this. You know where that name comes from? The
No.
name. We were Joe and I were talking about doing a story, but then I went to an estate sale, and this guy had collected crime books, and there was this dusty old crime book called Bloodletters and Bad Men, and I bought it, and it was just all about like criminals and stuff. Like had done. So I was like, I'd never seen the word bloodletter, used as like someone who is, an assassin or a. I was like, that is so good. So
Yep, dude, when you said it to me, I was like, that's it.
Done.
We're done here, right?
We got
because
our title.
Also, again, like, okay, so think about sounds, right? One of our inspirations was Hellblazer, right? So Hellblazer, Bloodletter, like literally, it's like it's three, right? It's three sounds, right? And so it just fit. And And it has a very particular, it has one or two meanings in the book. And it's funny because I was on Blue Sky the other day, and I posted something about bloodlettering, and someone responded, yeah, because writing in ink isn't cool enough these days. I said, that's a fact. It's not.
Especially the
You
Spawn
should be
universe.
writing in blood now. But again, yeah, like when Tim told it to me, just like the three-syllable name, and I just like in my mind, I saw the word on any given cover. I was just like, that's perfect.
Yeah, it's beautiful and very Spawnish, if that's a word.
Yeah,
Very Spawnish. All
yeah,
right, here we
yeah.
go, my friends.
Okay. Let's see what goodies you're gonna
Yeah,
show
so
us.
here
Oh
is
yeah.
cover A, absolutely beautiful. Christian Rosado on cover A as well. The
Yeah.
art, like I said, looks fabulous. Tasha looks absolutely badass. We have some other covers too. Here's cover two for issue two.
Yeah.
Look at that, man.
Come on. Come on.
It looks dope. It looks awesome. So that's
Yeah, and
that's
it was
Christian
funny because
Rosado.
this this cover came out the same month that Sinners dropped in theaters. So we are like, oh man, yeah, that's perfect. Like, yeah, give us our vampire cover.
Yeah, man, boy, did Sinners do well. I
Yeah,
think my
right.
daughter's gonna go see it for the second time. They said it was
Oh
incredible.
my God, how old is your daughter?
28. So I have
Oh, okay, good.
three daughters. 28, yeah, yeah, no,
Okay,
28,
I,
24, and 22. So
okay, you're a good dad.
yeah, yeah, no,
Okay,
yeah, I wouldn't let them watch it before that, but they
okay,
love
okay.
it. Obviously, it doesn't help or doesn't hurt having Michael B. Jordan and everything either.
Well, listen,
My daughters are like fully in love.
listen.
So here's B. This one's
Oh
Raymond
yeah,
A. This
by
thing,
Raymond.
oh,
Dude, I mean,
the
it's
throne.
so funny because Thomas snuck that one on us. We didn't know about that one until it was done, but I was just like, oh my God, that is sick. And then I immediately started following Raymond on all the socials, Instagram, Facebook, or whatever, because, when I'm talking about this book, when we're talking about it's a team, like it's a team effort, like we're Team Bloodletter. And so like to tag all the heads. So yeah, man, just look at that. Just look at like the detail, the posture. She's got one foot rested on a skull. Her cape looks just as alive as the organic as the tree.
Yeah, it's real good.
Yeah, right. It's kind of got like some like David makes you think of like David Finch and Bernie Wrightson, just like some of the greats.
Yeah, very cool.
I love the owls in the background too.
Oh yeah.
All right, so that's issue two. Let me go back because we do have. Oh, it doesn't show all the variants here. All right, we'll go to three. So I think they've given us images for the first three so far, at least on the
Yeah.
website. But another Christian Rosado cover, which I mean, and then like you said, here's that little sneak peek into She Spawn, which is going to be really exciting.
But we're gonna mix it up. You're gonna be surprised when you
Okay.
actually get the issues. But yeah, like, see, and this is the thing, man. It's like, so I buy comics for like what's inside, but there are times when a cover has made me buy a book. And to me, like you see that cover and like you want to know more, right? That's what the cover is supposed to do. It's supposed to make you go like I want to know more. Or, I guess the collector's perspective is that is art. That is art, and I want to own art, you
Absolutely.
know. So that's the thing, because like you said, like when you're talking about the Spawn universe, like there is artistic standard.
100%. Tim, are you doing a cover?
No, I'm not good enough.
You're not
Ah,
good. Come on, man. Oh, that looks dope, man.
that is that is great. And there's the owl again, but I
I
just love
know.
her holding the skull and how she's kind of got a look on her face and the skull's got a, it's just like the echoes. And there's another, I just love the way like Raymond designs these covers and just really thinks about it. And yeah,
The
yeah, like
detail's insane.
I just feel you just gotta feel so fortunate,
Yeah.
like to be working with like such talented artists, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, I wrote down the word owl, so I'll be looking
Oh
through
my
those
God.
issues. I
Oh
mean,
my God.
the second time, and there better be an owl somewhere in there, guys, because you got
Oh my
to.
God. What are we gonna do now? Oh my God.
I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah.
Incredible. Incredible. But I mean, just absolutely beautiful. Cannot wait for this. What do we got? 2 weeks before it comes out?
Yeah, yeah. It drops June 18th.
June 18th.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, a little
yeah.
more than 2 weeks, yeah, but absolutely beautiful. It looks fantastic. And again, these titles that are coming out of this Spawn universe has been so exciting as a Spawn fan to really get that expanded universe with all these new characters. And like you're right, the way Todd writes, there's a lot of things. And again, he's very honest about this. Sometimes he's like, this was a really good idea at the time, and then he moves on and he forgets about whatever he created. And then 30 years later, now we could go back and find these characters and develop them. I mean, maybe it was accidental genius, but man, all these different things that we could kind of tap into now and just take these storylines to the next level is a lot of fun. My understanding is we're starting with 5 issues. Is that correct, or is it going to go longer than that?
Five
Yeah. We're started
ongoing.
with five. But listen, if the fans demand more,
Yeah,
right? Like if you go out there, you get this and you're like, we want more, let the Todd father know. You know what I mean? So we'll see. But we wrote the story in a way that it's kind of like I think the way to approach it, it's kind of like this is a complete story. And if we go further, it's part of a macro story, right? But these 5 issues here will give you an arc. And by the time you get to like the last page of Bloodletter 5, it loops you back in a thematic sense to kind of like the first 2 pages of Bloodletter 1 in terms of Tasha and who she is and what happens at the end of the vendetta, right? So it's like it's definitely going to be an experience for people. And I think, when you're creating these comics, I think one good standard is I would buy it. You're creating the thing that is good enough that you would buy it, right? And that's how I feel like we've really thrown down with this.
absolutely. I had Erica Schultz. I've had her on a couple times talking Rat City, and I believe, I'm not mistaken, that was a 6-part series. Then it moved to a 12-part series, and issue 14 just launched. So I feel like this whole expanded universe has really like rejuvenated excitement in people that were maybe passive Spawn fans and have come in to pick up these titles, and now they're going back trying to find back issues of Spawn, which is absolutely phenomenal as a Spawn fan. You'll be able to find 1 through 100 fairly easy, but 100 to 200, good luck. Anybody who's trying to collect all those were
Wow.
tough
Is that
time
for
frame.
real? Like 100 to 200 are really hard to come by?
100%. Yeah, like the first 80 issues are, especially those first 10, they just, they were producing 2 million copies because it just exploded. And then they did pretty well. And then like a lot of titles, that's why I think Tim, the last time I had you on, we were talking about titles that kind of go past that issue 30. It's really something kind of the past. And you see what Todd and the entire team's been able to do with Spawn. I don't think we'll have another Guinness Book of World Records of someone doing 350 issues. I feel like the world has changed. The way people consume media and reading has just changed. But man, it's just amazing to be able to see a title with this kind of a run. And so it's really exciting, especially for Erica, because she's such a nice person. I'm so happy for her, and I'm loving Rat City. But to see it go past what it was initially going to be, and I feel like we're going to get more than 5 of Bloodletter. So I hope you two are starting to dig into what's next for Tasha, because I have a feeling it's going to go past that.
Well, we had 15 ready to go, so we are
Oh
ready.
yeah.
Yeah, we have
100%. Like you've always got to be ready to go to the next thing. And listen, from your lips to God's ears. And like I said, people got to buy it. They got to let Todd know they want more, because he's definitely I gotta say, like, he's one of the most creator friendly bosses like I've ever worked with. Like, he's very much about, like, like, hey, like, okay, if people are responding to it, like, let's do your thing more. So that's really cool. And it's really interesting what you said about, the long story now. Because Todd is very much an advocate for that. Um, he tells that to other creators, what he's accomplished. I mean, with Spawn just speaks for itself. And now you're gonna make me try to get issues 100 to 200 on the market, and I'm gonna go on a 5-year hunt throughout the world to get the originals. I have a few, but I'm gonna have to fill up some big holes. But yeah, so it's wild. But yeah, very happy for Erica. She's a bud. I call her the Winter Soldier. And Rat City gets such cool covers. So there's a part of me that I'm kind of competitive with her in the covers.
Yeah, we need to talk.
That's why we had to have covers as cool as those Rat City covers.
We need a Tasha action figure too, because she's the first one in this expanded
Yeah.
universe to have an action figure of Rat City Spawn. So we've been telling Todd, like, Todd, man, when are we gonna get some of these? Like, I want Shirley Johnson. Some of those covers are
Oh yeah.
amazing. I want my Tasha. Like, we need to have some of these expanded characters have their own action figure too. And I think Spawn, I think Todd will get there as well. I mean, obviously he loves it as well, but yeah, these are.
I get a McFarlane toy of something. I can walk. I can be retired.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Then like, where Tim's gonna move with his family, some island
Yeah, I
or
would not
something.
care at all about anything after that. I'm good. So,
Oh, I can tell you, like, if a bloodletter figure comes to pass, that'll be absolutely, like, surreal. But the thing is, when we were talking again, going to the artist like Christian Rosado, and we were just like telling him what we were thinking. And when, like, it's something, sometimes artists send you character designs and you'll like go back and forth. But I feel like Tim, didn't he like nail it first shot?
yes, he did.
Yeah. Like, we were like, okay,
That's good. You're ready. Yeah.
yeah, we're done. We're done here. Let's go, right? So yeah, like, she has a look that she can stand alongside all of these characters. And the thing about character design is, right, a character design is a story. So you should be able to look at a character design and say, okay, I got some thoughts about who that is.
Yeah.
Right. So that's definitely the case with Bloodletter.
I love it. I love it. Well, gentlemen, I mean, I want to be respectful of your time. I am so excited for Bloodletter. I will put the lunar code below. This should be in all your comic shops already, but I would get on the phone and I would call your comic shop, make sure they're having Bloodletter. June 18th, it hits all stores. I cannot wait to have it. I'm hoping that we could have you back maybe after issue 5 and just kind of talk about it. And just, then we could reveal things and not have to be so secretive of everything that's about to happen. I hope I see White Owls somewhere throughout the title since it's been on 2 separate covers.
Damn Raymond. Yeah, damn White Owls.
At least flying in the background somewhere,
We'll see what we can do.
That's 2 covers he did that, so he must have
Oh my
a
God, the White
fascination.
Owls.
But it works perfect. It fits perfect, man.
Well, that's a fact, no doubt.
Well,
So that'll be great to talk to you then, and then
yes.
and then we'll revisit this whole conversation. You'll be like, "Oh, I get it. Now I get it." Right? So that'll be cool.
I would love that. Well, next time we'll have Mark. He goes by Tiny Spawny on Instagram, and then Ty, who goes by Spawn Hunter. These are very positive guys that are fully in love in the Spawn universe. So I think we could have a round table and just dig into Tasha, everything that Tasha experienced. Does she get her hands on Spawn, and is she able to act vengeance? It would be really fun to see. And where does it take place in the world? That's what I thought it was all going to happen in Rat City, but it sounds like we're going to be global travelers through these first 5 issues. So where does she end up? Is she back?
That'll be cool, because Tiny Spawny just answered a post on Instagram that Tim and I were tagged on. So that's cool.
Mark is an amazing guy, and then Ty is an amazing guy. And I was saying before we started recording, Tim, I haven't been to Mark's house, but I've been to Ty's house. He lives in Colorado. He goes by the Spawn Hunter. He's been collecting Spawn for I don't know how many years. And with his job, he travels the globe with it. And so wherever he goes, he looks for Spawn stuff. So he has these amazing Zippo lighters from Japan that were only released of Spawn. He has watches that were only released in Japan. He has comics from Mexico, Peru, Brazil,
Oh
Japan,
man.
Korea. It's incredible. His collection will blow you away. So if you're not following those two gentlemen, do so, and you will fall in love even more with Spawn after watching these guys. They got tattoos of Gunslinger and Spawn. So I
Oh my
haven't gotten
God,
that
that's
far. I'm not
awesome.
sure my wife would go for that, uh, but yeah, man, that as you know, jumping into the Spawn universe, the fandom within Spawn is very unique. A lot of them only follow Spawn, and they're fully given to it. So it's an amazing community, and for both of you to be able to write something with the community, everyone's super excited. So I would love to have you back so we could talk Bloodletter and dig into it. But I want to thank you. Both of you are legends in my eyes. What you've accomplished in comic books as a comic fan, I'm really excited to be able to talk to both of you. And yeah, hopefully, I know Joey. We talked. You'll possibly be at San Diego Comic Con. Tim, are you going to
I
be at
will.
San Diego?
Yeah, we're both going to be there, and we're planning to do a Bloodletter signing at the
Nice.
Todd McFarlane booth.
Nice, man. I cannot wait for that. Well, I will have my copies and I will be ready to meet both of you in person again and to be able to get those signed. So,
That's
but
what's
thank
up.
you so much, gentlemen, for being on. I really appreciate it. Big fans of both of your careers. I have so many comics from both of you. Yeah, I probably have a long box just between both of your work that I've collected over the years. So it's an honor to be able to talk to you both.
Thank you,
Thanks,
sir.
man. Thanks for having us.
You bet. I hope you have a great rest of your week and we'll talk soon.
Okay, talk soon. Bye.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.